Okay, welcome back to the second and final portion of the podcast with Andrew Parker, aka Dewey Parker. One of the Dewey boys.
Yeah.
So, my kids just came in, and I'm probably going to edit out a lot of what happened because children like to shout into microphones. It's just what they do.
They
Bless
did
their
like
beautiful
that.
hearts.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so my kids have different hair colors. One is blonde, one has brown hair, and a lot of local people, when they see that, they're shocked, and they're like, how is this possible? How do you have children with different hair colors? Do they have different fathers? Do they have different mothers? What's going on here? Because, everyone in China has black hair with, well, I mean, they're like minority groups like the Uyghurs who are Caucasian people and whatnot, but Han Chinese people, the majority of the people here have black hair. And so to see children with different hair colors is just mind-boggling to them. Yeah, man. So, Andrew, you...
And they'll ask the question, like, they'll ask what's going on. Hey, your daughters have different hair colors. Do they have different dads? Like, people will ask that for sure.
Yeah, there's a whole different sense of social propriety in China. And when I first got here, it almost felt like Chinese people have no manners because they're so boldly asking about these things or saying other things or using the word fat so loosely, whereas in America, fat is like this insulting thing.
Yeah.
But I learned that they have a different sense of proprieties.
Mm-hmm.
For example, my wife and I, we went to a friend's house for dinner. This local Chinese family invited us to dinner. And they actually lived in one of those traditional hutong-style houses with like the courtyard in the middle. They even had a pig in the center.
Wow.
Fun fact about the Chinese language, the Chinese character for home or family, jia, is made of two radicals. There's a roof over the top. It's like a lion that represents a roof. And the radical on the bottom represents a pig. Because in a traditional Chinese hutong home, there is a pig in the inner courtyard inside the house. It's not a home without the pig. Anyway, so we go to dinner there. And we are telling stories. Everybody's taking turns telling stories. Humans do that. We communicate with stories, not just sound bites of information, but with narratives. And my wife decides to tell a story, and she tells this funny story about one of her ex-boyfriends in college. But as soon as she said, my ex-boyfriend in college, everybody gasped, and they're like, how dare you? How can you say these things in front of your husband? Have you no shame? And I've never seen any Chinese person react that adversely to anything before in my life. Like, speaking of an ex-boyfriend in front of your spouse is like such a major faux pas in China.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
He's not supposed to know about that.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I heard all of these crazy things that totally aren't true about, Chinese faux pas, like, don't stick your chopsticks into rice or they will associate it with death or something.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard that one?
Yeah,
And
that was in a book about like learning Chinese or something.
Yeah,
Like, by the way,
in China, nobody cares, man. Nobody cares. But what they don't tell you in those books is don't talk about your exes in public in front of your spouse.
yeah, there's a lot more. They're a lot more careful about what they say about those kind of things, or like sexual topics. Like they never talk about those kind of things. Whereas people in North America can be quite open about their personal lives, in that way. So yeah, they do. They just have a different set of what is okay to talk about and what you should really keep to yourself. And another one that throws people off is asking how much money you make, which is like
that's a major
often,
faux pas in the U.S.
Oh, it's huge, and it's often like the second or third question you get here. Oh, what do you do here? How much money do you make? That's the natural follow up. And at first it's like jarring. How dare you ask me? Often I'll tell people like, oh, that's a secret. Because I actually know the word for secret in Chinese, so I could say that. I say, oh, it's my secret. But back home, why are we so concerned about that?
Yeah.
There's not really a good reason for it. It's just like culturally and socially we've accepted we're going to keep quiet about this. It's not polite to talk about money.
I know, right? And yet one of the first questions men ask each other is, what do you do for a living?
Yeah. Well, do you get paid for it? No.
And we don't always think about that consciously, but what that really is sizing somebody up, like trying to figure them out. How much money do you make? What kind of person are you? What? It's one of those get to know you questions.
Sure, yeah.
But what are we really getting to know? I mean, one of the first bits of information that gives us is how much money that person makes.
Yeah, gives you an idea.
If you ask somebody, so what do you do for a living? And they say, well, I teach in a public school. I mean, immediately we know, okay, you make a salary from this range to this range without asking.
Yeah, that's true. But money, even how much, not even how much you make, but like what you do with your money, people don't talk about it, sadly. And then it's the same thing here, okay? Back home in North America, parents don't really talk about money with their kids. And then their kids grow up and they don't know what they're doing with money. And in China, it's the same thing, but with sex. So nobody talks about it, and then people get older, and they don't know what's going on with it.
Yeah, man. That phrase, open, I've heard that so much from young Chinese people trying to describe Americans.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I heard the phrase, Americans are so open.
Sure.
For example, when I first got to Shanghai, I got a job at Shanghai Normal University. I got a job teaching there, teaching in the College of International Tourism, which is a crazy story because I got hired on to teach Spanish there. When I arrived, they said, never mind, we hired someone else from Spain to teach the Spanish class, but you can teach the tourism classes. And I said, I don't have a degree in that. I don't know anything about it. They're like, it's fine, just tell them about America or something.
This is like tourism around the world, or you're teaching them to work in the tourism industry?
They work in the tourism industry.
Okay.
So I guess they just wanted a foreign face there to speak English to them as it related to tourism or something like that, and tell them about the culture of English-speaking countries, basically. So it kind of turned into a social studies type of class, like, this is what America is like, these are things about our culture, counterculture, music, whatever, you know. It's kind of a fun class. I made it a fun class. I figured, well, if I'm going to teach this class I don't know anything about, might as well have fun with it. So I would have the kids get up and give presentations, spoken presentations, as often as possible, because that's what tour guides do. They get up and they talk to people. And whenever they would talk about a contrast between Chinese and American culture, which would come up constantly, they would always say, Americans are so open. And then nothing else. And I asked them, like, what do you mean by that? They say, they are open. I would say, I don't understand what you mean by that. Can you elaborate? And then they would start blushing and giggling and be like, just spit it out. And then eventually it took like a whole year before they would even tell me what they meant by that. And they basically said, it means Americans are obsessed with sex.
Oh.
I'd be like, whoa, hold on here, hold on.
That's a pretty big leap from open.
Yeah. I mean, when I hear open, like, I'm so open, like, I receive you with open arms and love, and I don't judge, and that kind of thing.
Right.
But, no. It's a euphemism for you're obsessed with sex, man.
Wow. Yeah, and it kind of creates this idea that Americans are like, yeah, anything goes, whatever, you know? And if a Chinese tourist wanted to go over, they could do whatever, you know, because Americans are so open, you know, everything's fine. But that is not true at all.
But that is kind of how it's portrayed in Hollywood movies.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if you watch Hollywood movies, I mean, people fall in love within 20 minutes and then they're doing all kinds of unspeakable acts to each other. And, yeah, that's the norm in a movie. Because movies are supposed to be exciting and get people riled up. They're supposed to be a departure from real life. In real life, people are people, and they have problems and issues and communication, whatever. But, yeah, the number one consumer of Hollywood films outside of the United States is China right now, and it has been for a while. And so a lot of Hollywood films make more money off of these movies from Chinese audiences, from Chinese consumers, than they do from domestic sales, which is crazy. So a lot of American producers of films are trying to Chineseify their films, court the Chinese audience.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that.
Which is kind of
And
strange since the Chinese audience, originally started buying this stuff because they wanted a authentic American experience.
yeah, now there's all these little references to China and like
Yeah,
The Martian, or just maybe Martian.
yeah,
The one where Matt Damon is stuck on Mars.
yeah. I saw that one.
Yeah, it's like,
China to the rescue.
yeah, like, oh, how are we gonna do it? Let's get Beijing on the phone. And then I'm sitting in the audience, and of course they don't have subtitles for the part where they're, talking Chinese to Beijing. Hey, can you help us out? I'm like, what happened to the English subtitle, or everyone's speaking English, no subtitles.
Yeah, man.
Now I don't know what's going on in this very important call.
This is a reoccurring theme with science fiction films. Like, what was that one where the aliens come down and they're like these squid monster things, but they're friendly and they're trying to communicate with like ink circles or something.
Right.
And they get these linguists to try to decipher the language, but then at the end they get some Chinese guys to come over and help save the day, and they're pivotal to the plot. And yeah, man. That Iron Man flying through the Forbidden City in Iron Man 2 or 3 or whatever that was.
Just little things. Yeah, then they put Fanny Bing Bing in Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big
Fun
thing.
Bing Bing. Man, that was a strange moment. I saw that in a theater. And for most of the film, people are like, ooh, Iron Man, action heroes, whatever. Neat. This is what we came for.
Neat.
But then at the end of the film, in the Chinese version, they tack on the scene with Fan Bingbing, who is like a big star. She's like, bigger than Angelina Jolie was at her height, but here in China, beautiful actress, very, very popular. And then this other famous Chinese actor, I don't know his name, but they have this scene together. And the scene is so thematically different from the rest of the movie. The acting style is so different. It's very, very Chinese. And it doesn't fit with the rest of the movie. And when it came on, the audience started laughing. Like, it's supposed to be a serious scene, but they start laughing. And I'm looking around like, they are not buying this one bit. And it just made me think, like, yeah, Chinese people, they buy American stuff because they want an American experience.
Yeah. That's huge all over the world. Like, America's been able to export its culture everywhere. And nobody is like, oh man, we need to, make this a little bit our own, and it will be even better. Like, people want these American things, especially these cultural products.
Man, did you hear about McDonald's? McDonald's was going to change their name. The Chinese name. Like, the Chinese name is, it sounds kind of like McDonald's, but with Chinese phonemes. But they were going to change their name to something that sounded more Chinese.
Yeah,
like
I did hear about
the
that.
Golden Arches or something is how it was going to translate. And people were up in arms about that. Like, no, we love McDonald's. We like the way it sounds. We want it to sound American, not Chinese.
Yeah, I mean, they do have Chinese things on the menu, but they're not trying to change their whole identity. That's something that really bothered me, though.
Yeah.
Tim Hortons just came to China this year. They've got a few in Shanghai. As a Canadian, Tim Hortons, obviously very important to me.
I'm not familiar with Tim Hortons.
Oh, man.
You'll excuse my Americanness.
All right, I'll explain. It's a coffee shop, primarily.
Okay.
But they've got great selection of meals for any time of the day. Okay. Gonna do a quick ad for Tim Hortons here. Sandwiches, soups, all kinds of donuts and muffins, bagels, all that stuff.
Wow,
so
sounds
great.
kind of awesome.
Yeah, it's got a great, huge selection. Of course, when they came to China, and they're here in Shanghai, the selection is a lot smaller, which is unfortunate because they don't have, like, my favorite donut and stuff like that. But they've got a lot of good things, and the ice cappuccinos are the same. So yeah, really nice things that, you go in there and you get that home feeling because you're having that product that's very, very comparable to what you're used to back home. And then they add in some other random things because Chinese people will only they have to have something that they can connect to,
Like some random rice dish or something like that?
Yeah, like, of course they've got like a couple matcha flavored things. I think you guys call them donut holes, those little... Yeah. We call them Timbits.
Timbits, interesting.
They've got a variety of Timbits, different flavors, and so they added in a salted egg yolk flavor for the Chinese consumers.
Ooh, like mooncake flavored.
Yeah, like
donut. Oh man.
I mean, this, like when Tim Hortons opened, and this is true of most chains, international chains that open here in Shanghai, there was a line for weeks. You would have to wait, hours to get into this place.
Yeah.
And no one is lining up for Tim Hortons' Chinese take on a Canadian classic, Just give the people something from this other country. That's what they're there for. They want to experience something else.
Have you heard of Cineswirl here in Shanghai?
I've heard of it, yeah. I know it.
Yeah,
that place is
I have
amazing.
some friends of mine, Jared Turner and his wife Heather, they decided to open up a shop, a bakery, where all they did was make cinnamon rolls.
Yeah.
And this was met with a lot of
Amazing
contempt from people saying, cinnamon rolls? Chinese people don't like cinnamon rolls. They don't eat them. They complain it's too sweet. It's just not part of their palate. But Heather was really good at making cinnamon rolls, and it was something she was passionate about, and so they decided to try it. And so they opened up this shop, started selling cinnamon rolls, something that the Chinese had never eaten before, and sold it like, this is a uniquely American product that we eat all the time in America. Americans love this. Try it. And people did, and it caught on. And, they're huge now in Shanghai.
Yeah, and cinnamon buns are like a lot more widely seen, just being like more accepted. But Cineswirl, so good.
Yeah. Shout out to Jared and Heather Turner at Cineswirl. Not sponsored by them, but hey, if you guys are interested, hit me up.
Me too.
But it is good. It is good. If you're in Shanghai and you have a hunkering for a cinnamon roll or cinnamon bun or whatever you call them in your respective country, go check them out.
Yeah. See, that's one thing, that's a big problem with living in China, and something I found, when I lived in smaller cities before I came to Shanghai, where there wasn't as many international products available, you go to a bakery, you buy like some kind of a roll, it's bread that's been rolled up.
Yeah.
And there's some dark stuff in there.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I know, okay. And you look at it and you say, oh man, that looks so good. That's a chocolate roll. Or, worst case scenario, it's a cinnamon roll. Okay?
Except it's
so
not.
You buy it, you walk out, you bite in, red bean! Man!
Red bean paste. Oh man.
You've been fooled by red bean paste.
Red bean paste, the traditional Shanghainese dessert.
It's everywhere in China, and it shouldn't be in desserts, in my opinion.
It should not. But here's the craziest thing about red bean paste, the traditional Shanghainese dessert that people love or hate, or they just keep eating it here, is that people complain about how sweet it is. Like, I can't eat red bean paste, it's too sweet. Have you heard this?
Nothing sweeter than beans.
I know, right? It's about as sweet as a bean burrito, in my opinion. Although some people claim it's far, far sweeter.
I've had sweeter things than that, but they must be adding sugar to it or something. Because, beans on their own, not so sweet. But, like, some of those buns I had, or, whatever, swirls, they weren't that bad. But the thing is, when you're biting into it expecting chocolate or expecting cinnamon, that is a hard surprise to take.
Oh man, this is bringing back childhood memories of carob. But you know what carob is?
I've heard it, but I don't know what it is.
Man, my mom was very anti-sugar when we were kids.
Oh, was it like, here, chew on this?
Well,
is that stuff that you just?
It's
like a root.
And there was no chocolate, nothing like that, no candy,
man.
no joy, no happiness, and instead, she got this chocolate substitute, carob. It grows in a pod. It's from the Middle East. Like, it's mentioned in the Bible in olden times. Like
ancient food.
Yeah, John the Baptist supposedly ate carob or locusts or something like that when he was surviving out in the wilderness. Anyway, so carob, if you use your imagination, and if you have never eaten chocolate before, it tastes just like chocolate. Until you eat chocolate for the first time, then you're like, I've been screwed, man. My whole life I've been eating this crap when I could have had the real thing. Oh man.
So how old were you when you actually had chocolate?
I don't remember. I don't remember when I had chocolate for the first time,
But this, was it like maybe you had it once in a while, or you wouldn't have had it until you were
I didn't
far
have it
older
until
than normal or than usual?
Yeah, man. Like when I was a kid, there was no sugar, no chocolate, no candy. We didn't have a television for quite some
Me
time
neither.
until later in my childhood. Then I got a TV, and we saw all these ads for stuff bombarding us constantly. Like there's cereal with sugar in it. There's candy you can buy on shelves at stores. There are
Oh
humans that
man.
don't say settee and Chesterfield instead of couch. Man,
Wow.
television was an eye opener.
Yeah, we didn't get one until way later, and then it was just for movies. Like, if we had a movie that my parents had like okayed, and then we got a Nintendo 64.
Ooh,
That changed everything, man. Whew.
the N64.
That was a good time to be alive.
A friend of mine in college had one of those. Man, my freshman year of college, that's when the N64 came out, and a guy down the hall, um, he bought one, and he was always playing Mortal Kombat Trilogy.
Oh yeah.
And I went to an extremely conservative college, Brigham Young University. It is owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay.
And compared to modern video games, Mortal Kombat, the original, was very tame.
But there's those fatalities.
Yeah, there's those fatalities, and there's animated blood sprites that come out on the screen when you get hit and whatnot. But maybe it's just because I've been so desensitized by modern video games where you can see like very realistic graphic violence or over the top realistic graphic violence. That looking back on these old sprite based violent video games, it's just like, haha, that's cute.
Plus, it was like pixels of blood.
Yeah,
And like, have you seen a Mortal Kombat game recently?
yeah.
It's intense. I
Oh,
mean,
man.
I'm a full grown man. Well, I'm like an old boy, let's say. I don't really say I'm a man, but I see it and I'm still like, ugh.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat 11, those fatalities are visceral.
It's a lot, man.
It's
Yeah,
like,
some of them.
that's kind of gut wrenching.
Yeah,
Some of them are like, they
too
went
real.
there, man.
They thought about that,
Yeah,
and then
like
they made it. Oh
a
man.
lot of the old fatalities in Mortal Kombat were like, how can we do this do this horrendous thing in a way that no human would ever be able to actually do it?
Yeah.
And some of the new ones are like, you could actually do that. That could be done. Are
I
they
didn't-
inspiring serial killers?
I didn't think about that. Jeez. They
Yeah.
call him the Mortal Kombat Killer. He tears out his victims' spines.
Oh man, getting into violence in video games. This is a hot topic on the internet these days.
Mm.
What do you think? Does Mortal Kombat cause people to turn into psychopaths?
No, I don't think so. I think it's some of that violence is overblown, and I couldn't imagine being a young kid. Like when I was playing Nintendo 64, I can't imagine being that young playing the games that are coming out now. Like just how, like you said, desensitized you would be to that violence. Like if I grew up watching those things, very realistically done, rendered in an amazing quality, just beautiful, beautiful kills.
Yeah.
It would be so commonplace, you would think nothing of it.
Yeah.
And now as an adult, when I see it, like I said, I'm still you wouldn't feel that if you grew up playing that game and watching that. So yeah, I think it's a lot. I think it's definitely more than there needs to be. But does it turn you into a shooter, a psychopath? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think Mortal Kombat has actually inspired a lot more martial artists than psychopaths. Well, actually, a lot of martial artists are psychopaths, but
Okay.
they're psychopaths on the right track. Put them in
They're
a
trying.
cage, have them fight another trained killer in a cage with a referee who will pull them apart before they actually kill each other. And yeah, we can handle that as a society.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
But yeah, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, all those old beat 'em up games have definitely inspired generations of martial artists. So here's my question. What do you think has inspired more people to get into martial arts? Video games or Bruce Lee movies?
Oh man.
Because like people from my generation, people born in the 1970s, we watched Bruce Lee movies and they're like, cool, I want to do that. I want to learn to beat up the bullies. But kids these days, I don't think they know who Bruce Lee is, other than maybe.
I mean, he's a cultural icon, but
I mean, he
are
is.
people actually watching his movies? I don't really think so.
Yeah, how many 12-year-olds out there are watching Enter the Dragon or The Chinese Connection?
None.
Yeah,
That's my guess. None.
probably none.
I mean, my problem with it is that like when I was young and I saw, for me it was more like Jackie Chan. If I was going to watch a martial arts movie, it'd probably be a Jackie Chan movie. And I look at it and it's just so fantastic. No human, no real human can do that.
Except for Jackie Chan, because he did all his own stunts.
Exactly. Jackie Chan, you look at him and you're like, this guy is like some demigod of martial arts. He's not normal.
Yeah.
And I never once watched a Jackie Chan movie and thought, oh, I need to start training so I can do that. Like, I really want to jump from that balcony to that balcony. You know?
Yeah.
I never thought that for 1 second. So for me, like, it that didn't push me into training or anything like that. That's just like another level. I know I'm never going to get there, you know?
Jackie Chan movies are nuts, man. When you understand that he does all his own stunts, like, what was that movie? Operation Condor. You know, thematically, it's not a great film.
Yeah,
Thematically, it's kind of stupid. But when you watch it thinking, this man is doing all of this for real, there's no CGI, there's no special effects, it's all him, there's no stunt double. Then you can appreciate, like, that's actually really cool. It's a stupid movie, but the stunts are incredible.
Yeah.
When you understand they're real, 100% legit.
Yeah, and in I don't know how many movies he falls from a great height. Like, that's like one of his tropes. Jackie Chan falling down way higher than anyone should. And my favorite Jackie Chan movie is Who Am I?
I don't know if I've seen
it's
that
not
one.
It's not a big one. But yeah, he has like a military background, and I can't remember what happens, but somehow he can't remember what happens. His memory is erased or something, and he can't remember like who he was in this military, you know, this covert military operation.
This kind of sounds like that other movie series, the Bourne Identity.
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. Bourne got it from Jackie Chan. No, it's kind
Did
of
Jackie Chan do it first?
Oh yeah, this is
wow.
so old.
This is blowing my mind.
Well, when did the Bourne books come out? It's based on a book. But I'm sure, like, this Who Am I movie is so old. But he is, like, up in a tree, you know, he's, like, being all stealthy and stuff and falls down, or, like, out of a helicopter or something. He does the thing where, you know, he brushes past all the branches, and it's brutal. And, you know, he falls down on the soft jungle ground. But still, like, it's unbelievable what he put his body through. And then, you know, he would get injured and continue filming the movie.
Oh man, that's hardcore.
Who Am I is great. So there's another scene. They're like fighting up on a rooftop, and he throws leg kicks with this guy, and they just do like a mirror image of each other. They both throw leg kicks, shin on shin, maybe like 10 times, and it's just like throwing leg kicks full power. They're just kicking each other's shins and like looking at each other's eyes, like who's gonna break first.
Oh man,
And
I had a fight like that once in Shandong province.
It's a terrible idea.
It is a terrible idea because I hiked Taishan Mountain, one of the tallest climbable mountains in China, and man, so the fight. So I go in there, I throw a leg kick, my opponent checks it. I'm so high on adrenaline, I don't feel a thing. I'm like, I'm going to do that again. And I kick him, he checks it. There's no setup behind these kicks. I'm just throwing leg kicks like a maniac. And he's checking every single one of them. And again, I don't feel the pain because I'm high on adrenaline, and I just keep thinking, he's going to break before I do. And I keep throwing these kicks over and over and over and over again, which is a terrible idea because you can totally break your shin doing that. Like literally snap it in two if your opponent checks hard enough. But, you know, I kept doing it, and it went 3 rounds, and yeah, man, afterward I was like, okay, yeah, my shin's all sore and bruised up, but yeah, whatever. But then, I hiked up Taishan Mountain, and the recommended hiking time is 3 hours to hike up there at a moderate pace.
Jeez.
And the recommended hiking down time is also 3 hours to go at a moderate pace.
This is stairs, right?
Yeah, stairs.
Chinese hiking.
They've got these Chinese hiking up the mountain. You're not rappelling, or that's the wrong word. Mountain climbers, correct me in the comments. What's the right term? You know, you got the mountain climbing equipment with ropes and those hooks or whatever you use. No, you're climbing stairs. So they built a stone staircase in the side of the mountain that takes you up to the top. But it's still pretty steep. They're steep stairs. And so it's like 3 hours of stair climbing. So I get to the top. I'm like, okay, that wasn't too bad. I camp around at the top for a while, look around, like, this is neat. Hang out with the monks up there and whatnot. And yeah, there's a monastery up on the top of Taishan Mountain, a bunch of monks it's interesting. So then I get this call from the folks down at the bus, the tour bus down below, with all the fighters who had come to this event. They're like, "Hey, Ramsey, we're all down here. Where are you? We're waiting for you. The bus is gonna leave." And I'm like, I'm at the top of Taishan Mountain with the monks. They're like, "You better get down here. This bus is leaving in 45 minutes. They will not wait any longer than that." I'm like, 45 minutes? That's a 3-hour hike. My wife was up there with me as well. And I said, we got to sprint. We got to sprint to get there. So we run down Taishan Mountain. We run down this steep staircase. We are sprinting. And, we're sweating and all that. But every step on the way down, boom, when my foot hits the floor, it feels like my leg is breaking in half. I'm like, ow! Oh, what happened? Oh, I feel all those leg kicks right now. I feel all those shin checks. Oh, this is torture. But we made it in 45 minutes. 45 minutes sprinting down the mountain, feeling like my leg is snapping in half every single step down the way. Man, I got an X-ray afterward, and no bone damage. It was
you
just
got your legs removed right after.
Felt like I needed to, yeah.
Oh, man.
Man, I couldn't kick a bag for like 7 months after that.
That is brutal. I hate getting kicked in the leg, man. I would not want to.
Yeah.
I would not climb down a mountain like that. Jeez.
I tell you what, after that fight, I invested a lot of stock into catching kicks instead of checking them.
Oh, yeah.
Man, it's a very, very common technique here in China with Sanda fighters, catching the kicks instead of checking them, setting up your opponent, programming them to throw kicks in places where you know they'll be coming, so they're much easier to catch.
But this guy was checking your kicks.
Yeah, he was. That's right. I got this backwards, man. But still, that motivated me.
You were throwing all the kicks, right?
Yeah, leg kicks and checking kicks. And, when Anderson Silva snapped his leg in half and all that stuff, it was just very eye-opening to me. And I thought, that's a much higher risk move than people think.
Yeah, that was horrible. That's happened a few times.
Yeah.
Corey Hill did that too. I don't know if you've seen
Corey
that.
Hill, yes, I saw that.
Corey Hill is one of the saddest MMA stories, man.
Oh, man. Very promising up-and-coming fighter.
Yeah.
Very tall, lanky guy for the weight class. I think he was a featherweight.
And he was huge.
Yeah, really big featherweight, man. And he comes out there, throws a leg kick. It looked like it was well-timed. His opponent just checked it the right time, the right place, with just enough power and weight behind it. Snap. His leg turned into jello. Oh, it was ugly. So if you want to see some nasty leg breaks, look up Corey Hill leg break on the internet. And if you don't, do not look that up.
Yeah, it's, in my opinion, it's worse than the Anderson Silva one. It is horrible.
Man, this happens a lot more than you might think it is. Like Corey Hill, Anderson Silva, those were two high-profile fights because they happened in the UFC. But if you want to see a nasty compilation, I made one. There's a video. It's called Kicking Power. Just look up Ramsey Dewey Kicking Power, and there's a picture of some Muppets on the thumbnail. You'll find out if you watch the video. And there's like a minute-long compilation of people throwing leg kicks, getting them checked, and just having their legs snapped in two in all kinds of fights. MMA fights, kickboxing matches, Sanda fights, K1 fights, Muay Thai fights. Oh, any fights that allow shin checking, man. One of my online friends, Chris Price, he's a professional fighter, and he's doing really well for himself. His very first amateur fight ever, it might have been a pro fight, but his first MMA fight ever. He goes out there, like within the first 30 seconds of the fight, throws a leg kick, his opponent checks it, and his leg snaps in half. And this is how hardcore Chris is. As soon as he was able to walk again, he starts training again. As soon as he's able to fight again, he gets back in the cage. And the guy is doing an amazing job right now. So shout out to Chris Price out there on the World Wide Web, man. I mean, most people, Andrew, you had an interesting situation. Not unlike what happened to our friend Chris, except it was your arm.
Yeah.
In a jiu-jitsu competition. It was supposed to be like a friendly inter-gym competition.
Yeah, in a shopping mall.
Yeah, so a bunch of our guys went up against a bunch of guys from Jiangsu province. We met at there was a ring set up in a mall over there, a crowd of people watching.
Yeah.
And it's, just supposed to be an IBJJF rules jiu-jitsu match, and Tell us what happened.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't as bad as the other things we're talking about.
Yeah, that
But
was easier to fix, but
yeah, it was. The fight was just under a minute long.
yeah,
Actually, the whole tournament was under a minute for me. But the guy was and you told me about this before, but he was a judo guy. They taught a lot of judo at that gym.
yeah,
So the fight started. We ended up going down to the ground, and I stood back up, which was foolish. I should have tried to stay down as much as possible going against the judo guy. So we stood back up, and as soon as we got back up, he threw me, and my arm got caught underneath my body, so my body landed on my arm, and my elbow bent the wrong way.
yeah.
So I remember looking down, and my elbow was on top of my hand. Like it totally bent the wrong way, and I knew like as soon as it happened, I was like, my arm is broken. I was so sure of it. I tapped, and they were all pretty happy. Like they thought that he just threw me so hard.
You were so calm about it too at first.
Yeah, I mean, the guy was like, through no fault of his own, he was happy to win the fight. But I remember them being like, "Yeah, we got him," and he was kind of with his coach, like, "Hey, good judo throw. You scared him. You scared him into tapping." And you came over, and I was like, "Dude, my arm is broken." And you checked it. You said it was broken too. I remember you were kind of like,
yeah, I saw the bone poking out.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if it was a break or if it was a dislocation.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. But yeah, they took me to the hospital. Like, well, as soon as we got out of the ring, then it really started to hurt. And it was in a lot of pain. They drove me to the hospital, and I thought it was broken the whole time until we went to of course, all this was in Chinese. He took me to the casting room, and the doctor grabbed my arm, and it hurt so bad. I was, why are you grabbing it? Hang on a second. And he grabbed it and like twisted his body. And I'm like, what are you doing? Ah! Oh, okay, that's a lot better. Yeah, and it was just dislocated. Yeah, it was just a dislocated elbow. So he popped it back into place, and they put a cast on most of my arm. But until that moment, man, I was sure it was broken. Just seeing what had happened when I landed on it, and how it felt, of course. Yeah, I thought it was snapped.
Yeah, man, you took that like a champ, like so matter-of-factly, so calmly. You're lying there on the ground, and you're like, yeah, I think it's broken. Like most people, they would see their elbow bending the wrong way, like 45 degrees, and they'd be like, ah!
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I was freaked out enough to tap, and I mean, as soon as he got me down, I realized like I can't do anything. Like my arm wasn't responding to what I was telling it to do, and I had to tap. But like I said, and you said, like adrenaline when that guy was checking your kicks. There's a lot of that, and I was fine. I was very calm. Someone else came up from the audience too, and like were playing with it. I don't know if they were trying to reset it or something.
That one guy, that random middle-aged Chinese man.
Yeah, we're not really sure about his medical credentials.
I remember you looked at him and saying, "Is this guy a doctor? Who is he? What's going on?" And
I did ask.
I didn't know who he was.
Who are you? Are you a doctor? Oh, all right. See what you can do.
Just bending it around, trying to pop the bone around, and
so
is this helping?
Yeah, I was very calm.
Or is he just genuinely curious to see what a broken arm feels like?
Yeah, he's just making the most of an opportunity. So I was very calm for that. But like I said, when we got out of the ring and we were like walking to the car, I fell apart. I was in a lot of pain then. Every speed bump we went over in the car, I was yelling.
Oh man. No. It wasn't a Chinese ambulance you went in, was it?
No, just one of the guys from the gym. They were, I should say, they were so nice about it. Yeah, it was a guy from the gym that we were going up against. And they had a few people that came with me, drove me there. The tournament covered the medical costs and everything. They were really good about it.
Man, insurance is so great in China.
Mm-hmm.
Like medical coverage in China, in Mongolia, in Thailand, pretty much in a large portion of the world is affordable, and it probably is in Canada as well. But in the U.S., it's the polar opposite. It blows my mind when there is affordable health care. I'm talking about how we don't want to make this podcast political, and we're talking about guns and
there's only
healthcare
one thing left.
Apparently, I'm a 40-year-old man now, and this is where my mind goes. I'm a 41, by the way, but yeah, it is shocking to me how I spent some time in American hospitals. Um, had a bunch of health problems in my early 20s, and the bill was insurmountable. It was like 300,000 US dollars for a month in the hospital. I was like, how am I going to pay this as a college student making $5 an hour? This doesn't work. This doesn't add up.
Yeah.
And that's like after insurance. Like after insurance, man. Think about that.
That's another thing I don't understand as a Canadian, because we have universal health care, and if you go to the hospital, you don't get a bill. And
Yeah.
so coming to China, that was a different thing for me. My first couple jobs had health insurance like built into it, or the school would just pay for things.
Yeah.
And then I had a job here that didn't have health insurance one year. And I went to a hospital, and it was so weird to me. Like, the doctor came in and said, we need to do this, this, and this. We need to do an ultrasound.
Yeah.
Okay, goodbye. And he left. This other guy came in, not a doctor, just the finance guy.
Yeah.
I've never experienced this before in Canada, of course. So he came in and he says, okay, the doctor wants this, this, and this. It's going to cost about this, this, and this. Can you handle this? What are you supposed to say? Like, it's your health. It's, this is the most important thing, right? So of course I can handle it. We can, pay for it or whatever. That was at an international hospital that was very, very expensive.
Yeah.
Thankfully I have health insurance now, and it's amazing. Now I go into this international hospital, and they're like, oh yeah, we want to just to make sure, we'll check every organ. And I say, yeah, okay, do your test, it's all paid for. So I'm like, do whatever you need to do, let's be safe about it.
Yeah.
Ultrasound everything, why not?
Oh man, you don't get the luxury of knowing what the bill is in America until you get the bill.
Oh, there's no finance guy who meets with you.
Well, there's a finance guy, kind of.
Like, but that's after you
They
do it.
come with a bunch of paperwork and they say, sign this, and you're like, what am I signing? And they're like, this basically says that you agree to receive care from us, and if you don't sign this, you don't get care, and you pay us whatever we ask for, basically. And so, man, I remember like lying in this hospital bed, dying at age 21, like literally dying. This lady comes in and says, sign your life away right here. I'm like, how much is this going to cost? We're not going to tell you. We don't have to. What happens if I don't? You have to sign it. You have no choice in the matter. Yeah.
Yeah, how much is your life worth? You can't like walk out of there.
Yeah.
I think I'll handle this on my own.
I mean, if you're literally dying in the hospital bed, hooked up to tubes and stuff, I mean, what are you going to do? Sign the paper?
Go home, take a vitamin C.
$300,000 bill afterward?
Out.
Yeah. It's nuts, man. But the crazy thing is that a lot of these countries, they don't have socialized health care. They simply have affordable health care.
Yeah, that health insurance that's more affordable, definitely.
Yeah. Like at a Chinese hospital, local Chinese hospital, this blew my mind. Like to get an X-ray was about 70 renminbi.
Oh, so yeah, you're saying not even insurance, just what it costs to do. That's
without
a lot
any
lower.
insurance
You're
at
right.
all. 70 renminbi for U.S. listeners is about $10, 10 US dollars.
For an X-ray, that's unbelievable.
So anyone who's paid for X-rays out of pocket in the U.S. is probably gasping like, what? And then, what is it? An MRI, it cost something like 200 renminbi.
So that's at a
the
Chinese
equivalent of like
hospital.
30 US dollars. Yes, at a Chinese hospital.
See, this one that I go to where you have insurance.
Yeah.
I went in the other day and I had like stomach issues. Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty common thing. I had hot pot for lunch.
Oh.
And then I got sick.
My wife loves hot pot. I'm not a big fan.
Oh man, I love hot pot, but this was not the right place for it. And got sick, and I needed a doctor's note. So I went to the doctor to, get them to say, his stomach is messed up. But they, like I said, they want to check everything, and your insurance will pay for it. So they did a bunch of things, and those ultrasounds, I got 4,000 kwai worth of ultrasounds. Okay, so how much is that?
4,000. Oh man.
I don't know what you're dividing by.
6.8 US dollars. No. 6.8 kwai renminbi per US dollar.
All right.
Last I checked. Roughly.
You do the math. So it's a ton, and it's a lot more than at the Chinese hospital, which we have found can be very, very good.
And that's
Unbelievable.
still way cheaper than paying out of pocket in America.
Oh yeah, that's true. Definitely.
I mean, they can literally put whatever price tag they want on whatever service they want, and they don't have to tell you about it. You don't have to come to an agreement with the doctors, the healthcare providers. They just, yeah.
Wow.
It's nuts, man. A lot of people ask me, like, why are you living in China? What does China have that America doesn't? And the first thing I think of is you don't have to file bankruptcy when you get sick. So
That's a nice one, yeah.
yeah, it's a nice one, man.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely challenges to living here, but it gives you some opportunities that you wouldn't have back home. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Speaking of which, actually, I'm going to go on a complete departure of this because
Okay.
I was trying to segue to this before, but we never ended up there. I get so many comments about baldness on my YouTube channel,
There was no segue for that.
and every time I have another bald guy on my videos or my podcast or whatever, people are like, "You only have bald people on your podcast. What is going on here?" Or they'll say like, why are all these fighters bald?" I got this weird comment today. I read it. It said something like, "Why are so many fighters bald? Is it a vanity issue?" And I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
get
like, do we go bald because it's so beautiful? And we're just like, "Oh, look at my beautiful baldness. Be jealous." I've never had that thought process. I mean, it's a genetic condition in my case. I've got androgenic alopecia, the most common form of baldness, or male pattern baldness, and yeah,
With the fighters thing, I think it's the opposite of vanity. I think a lot of guys aren't concerned about trying to have beautiful hair, with the exception being Elias Theodoro, the Canadian fighter who's also a model. And he has incredible hair, of course. But most fighters, yeah, that's not really their number one thing, and it gets in the way, when
Yeah.
you're grappling people. If you had it looking nice before and you go work out, it's not going to be looking nice afterwards. So why bother with it? Just
I
get
don't
it
know
out of the way.
how Clay Guida did it. Do you remember that guy with the crazy mop on
But
his
he
head?
used it. He used it really well. He used
Yeah.
it, to his advantage.
But yeah, I read some statistics, which is hair loss, as far as androgenic alopecia is concerned, male pattern baldness, is relative to age. So basically 20% of all males worldwide will experience baldness by age 20. About 40% by age 40, 60% by age 60, and there wasn't a lot of data about like age 80 and so on, because
Okay.
people tend to die during those those periods of their life.
Yeah. But on the bright side, he's not going bald.
Oh man.
Well, my situation, I have actual alopecia.
Yeah.
You've got pretend alopecia.
Pretend
I've-
my struggle's not real. No.
I've got the real deal.
So there are different kinds. There's androgenic, male pattern baldness, and you've got what's it called? Andropecia.
I've got alopecia universalis, which means my entire body is affected by alopecia. So I'm completely hairless. Like if people were commenting on bald guests you've had before,
Yeah.
I'm the baldest guest you've ever had. I can
By
say
far.
that with absolute certainty. Yeah, I've got no hair anywhere. So I've got the worst alopecia available.
Yeah. I had a video a while back that was sponsored by what were those guys called? Manscaped.com
Oh wow,
for below the belt grooming.
great.
You guys should pay me for that, but you're not. Um, I was thinking as a joke, it would have been great to have this podcast sponsored by them, but they were getting impatient. They're like, "Come on, make our video already. Put that ad up." I was like, "But I got to get Andrew on here. It'll be funny." They were not that patient, man. So, man.
Yeah, there were a lot of back when the UFC had individual sponsorships. There was a lot of Headblade sponsorship. Did you ever see that?
Yeah.
And guys that were like, you weren't really sure if they were shaving their head that much that they needed, a high quality, innovative shaving product specifically designed for men's heads. maybe they were just going bald, but like Headblade was all over the place, man. They sponsored a lot of bald guys.
Man, there were a lot of sponsors that kept reoccurring, some kind of odd ones to see, like on a fighter's shorts, like Condom Depot was a huge one for the UFC for the longest time before the Reebok deal went through. Like half the fighters on the UFC roster were sponsored by Condom Depot.
Wow.
And I just remember it made me feel weird watching UFC fights, and like I know that is something that people use, but we just don't really talk about it in polite conversation, you know? It's not something that's widely advertised on television, because, well, I don't know why, but you know, it just isn't. But to see it,
they finally got a place to advertise it now.
Yeah, to see it pimped out on UFC fighters' butts was just strange to me, man. So
Condom Depot, I don't remember seeing that. It is the best depot for condoms, though.
I guess, man, I guess. But it was like right before the UFC Reebok deal went down now, where like UFC fighters can't have their own sponsors to put logos on their fight shorts or their banner or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's just all Reebok now. So a lot of people were up in arms about that, like, how dare you, you're robbing the fighters of all this money. And at the same time, you know, I understand that. As a retired fighter, I understand that. Like, fighters don't make a lot of money. I mean, you go into that sport for the love, basically. Mm. So to take away their sponsorships, yeah, man, that's terrible. But at the same time, I was not sad to see Condom Depot go from the UFC. It just made me feel weird. I'm gonna put that out there. It made me feel strange. Certain things.
Okay. You're free to feel that way. You can feel strange.
And here I did an ad for Manscaped.com. That didn't make me feel weird.
Wow.
Oh, man.
So what are people complaining that you are focused too much on bald people, or they need some more
I don't know. Apparently
hair representation?
There are pockets of the world out there where humans have never seen a bald person before. And I don't know where these remote villages are, but I get so many comments from these folks. Like, you're bald, this is so wild and crazy. It's like the way that small children talk. Like, small children, sometimes they'll see me and they'll be like, you're bald. Like my daughter, Eve, when she was 2 years old. So we went to church. We're sitting in this meeting. This man is giving this very heartfelt talk about Jesus and what Jesus means in his life and so on. And everybody's listening to this talk given in very hushed tones of reverence. And then my daughter looks up at me and says, "Daddy, you're bald!" As loud can be, and it rings over the audience, and suddenly people just start busting up laughing. It goes from like super reverent to just wow. Oh man.
Wow.
That was amazing. I loved it. Loved every minute of that. Kids are beautiful. Love them.
I get that too. I get people asking like, "Where's your hair?"
Yeah.
Like I forgot it somewhere. Like, oh shoot, did I?
My daughter, when she stepped in here earlier and saw you, she asked, "Where is your beard?"
Yeah, which is good. Like every bald guy should have a beard, I guess.
Apparently, I mean, my facial hair grows so quickly. Like I have a beard in a week, and yeah, my kids freak out every single time I shave. I shave about once every 1 or 2 weeks, and my kids are like, "Where did it go?" No, I'm like, "It'll be back next week. Don't worry."
Yeah. I get that, yeah, and kids, yeah, they don't have that filter, so they'll yell it out, and that's something that I've kind of had to deal with here, because there's a word here, guanto, that people will say, and it can have like a negative connotation to it, like skinhead. And yeah, and so at first when kids were saying that about me, it bothered me, you know, and I would, like my students, I would say, no, don't say that, I don't like that, so it's not nice to say. And then I talked to some other people, and they're like, well, you know, if you say it and you're not trying to be offending, then it's okay. So these kids, I realized, they're not trying to be like, hey, you stupid baldy, you know, they're not insulting me, but they are really calling it out, like, as soon as they see it. So you just, like, which is something you get used to. If you're around kids a lot, they say that about a lot of things. They don't have that filter. So it's just another thing that I had to be like, all right, that's true. I don't have any hair. You got me.
Yeah, I know, but from little kids it makes sense, but from
Oh yeah, what's up with these adults who have never seen
people
one?
who are old enough to have their own YouTube channel, people who are old enough to write at least a high school level, asking these questions like, "Why are you bald? This is so crazy. You're bald, ah!" And so many like lame bald jokes. It's mind-boggling that this is happening with adult humans. At least I assume they're adult humans because I checked the analytics on YouTube, and it says that a very small percentage of my viewers are under 18. Now, they may just be lying on their YouTube account so that they can view the mature content. Probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, man.
So weird to me. I mean, of course it's normal for me. I had kind of a period when I first lost my hair when I was around 20 or 21 years old.
Yeah.
And before that I had hair like, totally normal. Arm
Yeah.
hair, you name it.
Yeah.
Leg hair, Ramsey. I had eyebrows, if you can imagine.
Did you have
it.
like back hair?
No.
Oh man, I got some back hair, man. Back hair, shoulder hair, arm hair in places where
Yeah.
people don't want to have hair.
Yeah, it wasn't like... Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, I've often said that if I could have like no hair from the neck down, if I could have alopecia from the neck down, it'd be no problem. I don't care about that. Like arm hair, come on. Don't
Yeah.
waste my time with that. But sometimes, like, especially here, there's Chinese guys with like incredible hairdos, man. Like they go to those like fancy hair salons
And there are
they
so
get...
many of those here in
Oh
Shanghai.
yeah, they're all over.
Fancy hair
Actually,
salons for men.
that's another thing. I was gonna say, I'm kind of jealous of their hair, and like, they got crazy things going on, and I think, oh man, it'd be cool to mix it up a little bit because I look the same every day. But also, just the hair salon experience would be
Yeah.
nice sometime. Like, I see what they're going through. They're getting pampered in there, man. I know if
Oh,
I
yeah.
walked in, they wouldn't be able to do one thing for me.
Yeah, I have a friend who's like, "Oh man, I love going to the hair salon. It's so great." I'm like, "Well, I've never been to a hair salon. What's it like?" And he tells me like, "Oh, they like give you a massage and they like
Oh,
shampoo
yeah.
your hair and it's amazing." And they're like, "Why not me? I could use that."
Yeah. Do you get massages here in China?
Yeah, the Chinese traditional massage, the Tui Na style massage, which is Chinese for torture and masochism, I believe.
Right. Roughly translated.
Roughly translated. Yeah, basically means push and pull with your thumbs. So the traditional Chinese style of massage, they take the thumbs, harden them into points comparable to steel, and dig them into the most sensitive parts of your back, trying to find the part that hurts the most.
Yeah.
And then they will ask you, "Does this hurt?" And then you scream out, "Yes, it hurts!" And then they'll be like, "Good! Ah!" And jam it in there even further.
Yeah. So you do that.
Yeah, sometimes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Great experience. Highly recommend.
Yeah. Do you get blind ones?
I haven't tried the blind man massage. no.
Okay, that's where I go. I go to a place where all the people are blind or at least very visually impaired. Sometimes I wonder though how impaired they are. Like,
Yeah.
I always turn the light off, so when you roll over, you're not like looking up right into a light. So I turn the light off, and so I can't see, they can't
Yeah.
see. It's like the blind massaging the blind in there. And afterwards, one time the guy was leaving, and he said, "Oh, do you want me to turn the light on?" Wait a minute. How did you know the light was off? So I don't know about I don't know how blind all of them are. But yeah,
Yeah.
the blind people, they're great. Like, they give the best massages.
Yeah, China has a long-standing tradition of training blind people as masseuses.
Mm.
The idea is that they focus on feeling, where all the knots are and so on, instead of, trying to see, even though like you can't really look for a knot with your eyes anyway. You got to feel
Yeah.
it with your hands. But that's the idea behind it.
Yeah, and it's a good vocation for them. It's tough to find jobs.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, but being a masseuse is a great option, I think. And they do a really good job.
One of the first Chinese films I ever watched was about a blind masseuse. This girl who's blind, and these guys feel sorry for her, and so they set up a like fake massage parlor to give her purpose. And they don't have any money, so that they do everything they can to make it like feel like a real massage parlor. And they have like everybody in town comes taking turns playing the part of a oh, what do you call it, like a customer, and they don't have any money, so they give her like fake money, which is just kind of messed up when you think about it.
Yeah. No one has any money. Like the clients, the people running the place, the whole town.
Yeah, so the whole movie is about they're running this fake massage parlor to try to make this girl happy, basically, this blind girl happy, and give her purpose and meaning. And then at the end of the film, the girl reveals, I knew the whole time you were all faking it. I could tell the money was fake, but it made me happy, and so I played along.
Oh.
So
It sounds like they're just making a real massage parlor. Like, if she was getting paid, that would just be a real thing. Like, why not do that?
so basically, these people bamboozled a blind girl into
Right.
getting free massages.
Yeah. She
Gave
was
her
working for
fake
free
money.
that whole
Yeah, I
time.
know.
That's another thing, though. When you give a blind person money, they know what it is. Like, they
Yeah.
know what bill it is, even.
Yeah.
Like, you
I mean-
can't give them a 20 and say it's 100. They know exactly what it is. They give you their change. I mean, no one uses money anymore, but when I first got here, that's what we'd do, and they knew exactly as soon as you put it in their hand.
Yeah, they know what it feels like, man. I have a blind spot in one of my eyes as a result of my last fight, like 7 or 8 years ago, man. It's been a while. But, man, that was, at first I felt like, oh no, my life is ruined. I got a, like, black spot in the middle of my vision. This sucks. But it's made me much, much better in martial arts as a result, because I've started paying attention to everything else instead of just what I see in front of me. Because the eyes trick you all the time in martial
Yeah.
arts, all the time. And you can program people just by raising your hand up in the air. The eyes translate that as, oh, he's punching me. You know, all these little fakes and feints and whatnot based on visual cues. And when you take that out of the equation and focus on everything else instead, man, it is game changing.
Hmm.
I mean, it's harder in a lot of ways, so much harder. But, man, game changing when you pay attention to the other details and your other senses.
So could there be a situation where someone throws a punch at you and you don't see it?
Sure, if they got into the blind spot, like if they were
So
like
it's
right
that
there.
it's that bad
Well,
that it
it's-
could be.
It's like this black floater in the middle of the vision. So when I spar, I'm always moving around so that I can see through my peripheral vision, because that's where your motion sensing vision is. Like the eyes, what we see on the front, that's details. We see the color of eyes, whether or not somebody has hair, what they're looking at, their facial expressions. But the peripheral visions, out of the corners of the eyes, the tops, the bottoms, the sides, we see motion.
Okay.
And that's the only thing we really need to be focusing on in a fight. So if I create angles, which you should be doing constantly in a fight, then I see motion perfectly.
Hmm.
But details, yeah, not so much.
Is it in one place and it will stay there constantly,
It
or it kind of drift?
it sort of drifts and then goes back to that one place. So if I look at it, it like
Yeah.
moves. If I focus on that
okay.
spot, it moves, but then it goes back. But here's the crazy thing. If I don't think about it at all, if I ignore it, I can channel it out, and it's like it's not there anymore.
Mm.
But as soon as I start thinking about it, boom, it's back.
And then you're looking right at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, it's there again. But yeah, I just got to relax and, get over the anxiety of it. It's like, yeah, eyes are weird. They're not cameras. We think they're cameras because they have a lens, and optically it works in a very similar way. But the connection between the eyes and the brain is totally different. Like we're able to see different things than other people are able to see when we look at the same thing. So eyewitness accounts, man, one of the most unreliable things. Memory, one of the most unreliable things.
Absolutely.
You have 10 people look at the same event and they will tell it differently. 10 people watch the same movie, they'll give you a different synopsis. So,
Right.
yeah, man.
Some might say it's a beautiful story of friends helping each other. Other people might say it's, what did you say? Guys bamboozling a blind woman into
Exactly.
giving free massages.
Oh man, that movie, the more I think about it...
Depends how you look at it.
Like when you watch the movie, it's got all this touchy-feely music and it makes you feel like, oh, it tugs at your heartstrings.
Right.
And then you say the plot out loud and it's like, those people were jerks!
Yeah.
How could they do that to a poor blind girl?
She's massaging for free! Cut the music!
I know, man. A lot of movies are like that, though. Like, you watch it and you're like, okay, that was okay. Then you say the plot out loud to a friend, like, I saw this movie and this is what happened, and it just sounds crazy or boring. Like, man, the last Star Wars movie. Did you see that one?
No.
Well, a lot of people complained about it, and I thought, it wasn't that bad. Until I said the plot out loud.
What's the plot?
Here's the plot of the last Star Wars movie. What was it? The Last Jedi? No, that's the one coming up. The Star Wars fans are going to hate me in the comments down below, but the last one that came out before whatever date this is that you're listening to this podcast right now.
Okay.
The plot is there is a slow motion chase through space while the spaceships are running out of space gas. That's the plot of the new Star Wars, the last Star Wars movie.
Yeah, that'll put you to sleep, man.
I know, doesn't that sound tremendously boring?
Wow.
But I mean, you
That
watch
sounds
it,
more
they're
like
in the
Star
theater,
Trek. Take that, Star Trek fans.
I'm a Star Trek fan, how dare you?
Now we've outraged everyone.
Star Trek is far superior to Star Wars, and everyone knows it, or at least they should.
Oh, man. Sure glad this tiny table is between us right now.
Do we need to have a Star War right here at this table
No,
right now?
I don't care about either one, so I can't get into it.
Oh, man. Well, speaking of great movies, man, I'm blanking on the name, but there was a great fight scene between this faction of Star Wars fans and Star Trek fans, and they go at it, and what's his name? Seth Rogen played one of the Star Trek fans, and it was hilarious, man. I don't remember the name of the movie. It's about this kid who's dying of cancer. This is set before Episode 1 of Star Wars comes out.
Role models? No, he's
they're
not.
trying to sneak into Skywalker Ranch to see like the unreleased footage of Star Wars Episode 1 because their friend is going to die before it's released in theaters, and they go on this epic road trip to try to sneak in there.
Fanboys?
Maybe was it Fanboys?
Fanboys was about Star Wars fans. I should stop talking. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, great movie, great fight scene between the nerds, but yeah, Nerd Battles Online, man. Nerd Battles Online can get vicious, so vicious because there's nobody there in person to keep them in check.
Okay. Wait, are these people together in person, or you're just talking about comments back and forth?
Comments back and forth, and this is usually how it goes down between Star Trek and Star Wars. The Star Trek nerds, of which I am one, will say Star Trek is more grounded in reality, which is hilarious when you say it out loud because,
Right.
Transporters and whatnot. But then they'll argue, well, a lot of those things have come to pass. For example, mobile tablet things with touchpads like they used in Star Trek The Next Generation, and people are working on making, food replicators or whatever, even though what we have right now is absolute garbage compared to, Star Trek, but they're working on it. Cell phones are kind of like the communicators they used in the original Star Trek and whatnot. So they'll argue like it's based on something that could possibly happen maybe in the future.
But who cares if it is or not?
Yeah, and then Star Wars fans are like, it's a fantasy, it's for fun, we do this because we love it, and it's fun, and that's why movies exist in the first place.
Absolutely.
And if you don't get fun, get out of here because you're weird.
No one's watching the Star Trek in the moment being like, well, I guess that communicator's kind of like a cell phone. Like, you get what they're trying to do. They're talking to each other on a little thing.
Yeah, but then here's what happens. The Star Trek nerds will start to pick apart the science behind Star Wars and they will ruin it. Well, if you really had a lightsaber that could cut through a metal with a melting point higher than iron, and you stuck that thing in there, then in episode 1, where Qui-Gon Jinn tries to cut down that blast door, he would have been incinerated immediately because of the heat coming off the lightsaber. Then the Star Wars nerds will be like, well, actually, if you consult Wikipedia, yes, Wikipedia.
Right, I'm familiar.
Of course you would be.
I'm not in either camp. I've just heard of Wikipedia.
If you consult Wikipedia, well, the lightsaber has a force field around it that contains the heat, or I don't know.
That makes sense.
Yeah, to which the Star Trek nerds will reply, well, what about the inertial dampers? Do you have any of those on a lightsaber? It's not big enough to contain that. But the kyber crystals, anyway.
You lost me. Which Star Trek were you into? Because I know that there are ones that are very, very different.
Yeah.
Like,
man. So
are you talking about the Patrick Stewart ones?
Yeah, the original Star Trek, the original series, loved it, watched that growing up. The Next Generation loved that as well.
Okay, so you take it, you like it all.
I got into Voyager after like season 4. It started getting good. Before that, it was kind of like it's the only Star Trek thing on TV right now, so I'll watch it.
Oh, okay.
But around season 4, it started getting good. They introduced 7 of 9, who's a Borg character, and they're interesting characters, always have been, and the plot started getting better. And Deep Space Nine, I hated. From start to finish, I hated it. It was the least Star Trek thing ever, and I will fight you on that if you tell me that I should love Deep Space Nine. Yeah, I'm going to make a lot of people angry about that, because
when was that one?
The 90s.
Okay.
Kind of came out around the same time as Voyager.
Oh, okay.
After the Next Generation.
All right.
And then Enterprise, I didn't watch very many episodes of that. It was okay. I enjoyed it, the ones that I did see, but it was not well received by the fans because it was so different. And then the recent Star Wars, what's it called? Star Wars Discovery, or STD.
Star Trek Discovery.
Oh man, whoops.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man, I called myself a Star Trek nerd, and look what I've done.
It's a good thing I'm here.
I am ashamed.
I've used up all my Star Trek knowledge already when I said the Patrick Stewart one or the one before that. That was it. That was everything I know about it.
Yeah, so Star Trek Discovery, or STD for short.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's current?
That's current.
Oh, okay. So they're still making it.
So this one is the most polarizing Star Trek by far, because they've departed from the standard formula, the episodic formula. Everything's all wrapped up in an hour. Everybody's happy. Everybody works together on the Enterprise toward Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future. And now it's different. Now it's like drama. It's like Game of Thrones in space, or something like that.
Okay.
And
that makes sense.
If it was a different intellectual property, I'm sure a lot of people would be like, okay, this is kind of neat. It's sci-fi. It's Game of Thrones in space or whatever. But since it's Star Trek, people get mad. Like, the Klingons don't act like that. Their foreheads aren't ridgy enough, or whatever, Yeah.
Yeah, if you change those things that have been going for years, 20 years? More than that. Way more than that.
Since the 60s, man. Since the 1960s.
Man, we are late into the 2000s here.
Yeah.
So it's been going for 80 years, and people have gotten really attached to it. Whenever you change something like that, that's been around for 120 years, people get upset.
Yeah.
When it's been around for 160, 170 years.
Man, with martial arts especially. Bringing this back to martial arts and traditional martial arts. When you, how can I put this? When you try to change a system that has been in place for a very long time, people get all mad about it. And a lot of people will be like, yeah, that's just like what Bruce Lee said. Sure. It's still happening today. It's just happening differently. Like in Bruce Lee's day, people would say, if you practice Wing Chun, that's all you do. If you practice karate, that's all you do. You don't mix styles. You have one sensei and you stick with them for life. Something like that. And now people are a lot more accepting of the fact, you can do judo and jujitsu. You can wrestle and you can box. You can train in everything and be an MMA fighter, and that's all good. Right? But the traditional martial artists on the internet are still incredibly pedantic about their styles. And if you don't represent them with 100% accuracy, they will jump down your throat immediately.
Now,
So,
when you say represent them, do you mean if you are a participant in that style?
yes,
And go ahead.
probably yes to the second thing you were going to say too. What was it?
Just talking about people that participate in it as an outsider.
Yes, that too.
Okay, so anyone who says anything or does anything about the style has to adhere to this. I don't know what
Sure.
set rules they have.
Like take for example, there was this guy. He's become kind of well known on the internet. A guy named Rokas, who was a Aikido black belt, and he was an Aikido instructor. Had his own dojo and all that. And he made this video where he decided to spar, like actual sparring, with an MMA fighter, and he got his butt kicked. And he was trying to use Aikido, and it just didn't work. And this video went viral because he posted it. He was very honest about it. This is what happened when I tried to use Aikido. I'm an experienced Aikido practitioner. I'm a black belt, have a dojo, have all this experience. And the Aikido community disowned him and said, "You're just doing it wrong.
Wow.
That's not real Aikido. If I was in there, it would be different. I would have wrist locked him and thrown him and got this Japanese name for a throw or whatever," which translates to nonsense. Anyway, so this happens a lot. Like if you have a Taekwondo fighter go out there and kickbox and he loses, people will be like, "Oh, he wasn't a good Taekwondo guy." If you have a Kung Fu guy go out there and get knocked out, people will say, "Oh, he wasn't a real Kung Fu guy. He was just some amateur." So yeah, they will throw their own under the bus very quickly as soon as their own do not represent them at the highest level.
Okay.
However, I notice the opposite kind of happens when you have a successful, famous mixed martial artist who dabbles in a traditional martial art. Like Anderson Silva, for example, he dabbles in everything. He's a martial arts nerd. There was a video that went viral on the internet a while back about Wing Chun, because Anderson Silva played with a Wing Chun dummy for a bit, and he trained with Dan Inosanto for a bit in Wing Chun and whatnot. And there was a fight, which he lost, by the way, with Michael Bisping, where he was kind of moving his hands in ways that were sort of like Wing Chun a little bit, kind of, but he was still getting punched.
Okay.
And the Wing Chun nerds of the internet had a heyday, and they were like, "Vindication, finally! Anderson Silva is our new patron saint."
Oh, wow.
Or Tony Ferguson, used like an elbow, which is taught in the Wing Chun syllabus, and he practices with the wooden dummy, and they're like, "See, our training works, our system works, it's legit because this MMA fighter used a thing."
Are they taking credit for, like, everything that those fighters do?
Absolutely everything.
Because
forget the
Wing
fact that
Chun
these guys
is, like,
are jiu-jitsu
integral.
black belts, and they wrestle and have judo black belts and taekwondo black belts and black belts in everything because they dabbled in Wing Chun. Now they've been claimed as the patron saints. And this, if there was a MMA guy, a successful MMA champion, who was an Aikido black belt, I bet there would be millions of Aikido practitioners worldwide who would celebrate and say, "See, it works, we're vindicated." Even if
Why
he never
not?
used an Aikido technique.
Right. Man, I wonder if anyone has some forgotten experience in one of these fringe martial arts.
Man, I don't
Because
know.
so many of those guys have, like you said, multiple belts.
Yeah.
I wonder if any of them have, like, "Oh, I started in Aikido, but moved on to other things."
I mean, man, there's Rokas right now. He's fighting. He's doing amateur fights. He's training up at the same gym as Conor McGregor right now in Ireland. So yeah, interesting guy. And I imagine if he becomes a highly successful MMA fighter at some point, the Aikido community may turn 360 and be like, "Oh, we'll take you back now."
Oh, okay. Maybe that's what he's doing. He's working for redemption.
I don't know.
Trying to get back in the community. That thing about guys who do their one style and then fight someone else, it's so hard for them to accomplish anything, because if you are only good at one thing and you fight someone who is good at many things, it's pretty obvious what's going to happen. You try your one technique, he has an answer for it, and he has 10 other techniques. You're going to lose. So these guys that are good at one thing and they go against MMA fighters who are talented on, all aspects of fighting,
Yeah.
how can you expect it to go any differently?
I know, man. I think there's a big misconception about mixed martial artists because of this popular expression, jack of all trades, master of none. And so a lot of people think, well, you know a little bit about a lot of things.
Sure.
Not realizing that MMA fighters know a lot about one thing, and that is winning fights. At all ranges of combat, wherever that fight goes, in a hand-to-hand, one-on-one situation, they are good at winning fights. So, whether or not you're good at catching punches and pulling off wrist locks, nobody's good at that, man. Nobody's good at that. Or whatever, they're good at winning fights.
Yeah.
On their feet, on the ground, in those transitions in between, in the clinch, up against the fence, with your back on the floor, out on the open mat, everywhere.
Yeah, and incredibly good at reacting to whatever their opponent does. So if their opponent does do a wrist lock, they're gonna be able to adapt to that. And one of my favorite things to watch on YouTube is clips of fighters who see something and then change what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
And it ends up, successfully. So
any halfway decent fighter's gonna adapt immediately.
Yeah, but how they can read something so quickly. Oh, he ducks his shoulder when he throws that punch. Oh, he always throws a jab, then does this.
Yeah.
And then they read it, and then they see their opening before it even happens.
Going back to the Star Trek analogy, a good fighter is like the Borg collective. Are you familiar with the Borg?
I've heard that word. I've seen.
Let me explain it to all the non-Star Trek nerds out there. They're basically this race of cyborgs. Basically, they go out there and they try to take over the universe by turning everybody into a cyborg. That's their objective.
Is Data a Borg?
The Borg tried to assimilate him into the collective once, but they failed.
Oh, so he's just a cyborg.
He's an android.
He's an android.
He's a straight-up artificial intelligence android. No genetic, organic components.
All right.
What the Borg are, they are cyborgs, part organic, living thing, and part machine.
I feel so silly.
But the Borg have this unique ability, which is to adapt. So if somebody attacks them, somebody shoots them with a phaser or a laser cannon, whatever it is, it might get them the first time, but then their shields will adapt to the pressure, and then they will be immune to it after that. So they adapt to the assaults on them, so they can almost always win.
So are you saying MMA fighters are the Borgs of the martial arts community?
Yes, they adapt, and then they go out and they assimilate new techniques.
Okay.
They are the Borg.
There we
of
go.
The martial arts
Finally
community.
a way for Star Trek fans to get into MMA.
Resistance is futile. That's what the Borg always say.
Oh, okay.
Just so you know.
I thought you were just telling me that. I don't know anything.
But yeah, seriously, like, man, the wrist lock, for example, it's a fun move. I use wrist locks from time to time in jiu-jitsu because people reach up and grab the lapels all the time, and that's a great time to catch a wrist lock. I think it was Rafael Lovato. I could be wrong about this. Maybe it was another dude with a Brazilian name. Very high-profile jiu-jitsu match like a year ago. He caught a guy with a simple wrist lock when he grabbed the lapel, and it was a beautiful finish. Happened like in 10 seconds. Two black belts, high-level black belts going at it. So I love wrist locks, but here's the thing. You catch a guy with a wrist lock once, you're not catching him with that same wrist lock again. Like, you know Michael Holbert, the wrestling coach?
Mm-hmm.
He's a good wrestler, big dude, strong guy. And the first time I grappled with him, I caught him with a wrist lock. And then he kind of laughed. He was like, I see what you did there. And I was never, ever able to do it again. Because, again, he's like the Borg. He adapted. He became immune to it.
Nice.
So you always have to, change your setups, change your approach to that one specific fighter who is adapting to... I shouldn't say change. You have to adapt to that person who is adapting to you.
Yeah, and MMA gives them that wide range of things to call on in order to adapt. Whereas if you're just a kung fu guy, well, if you don't have a kung fu move for that, you're out of luck.
Indeed. Man, I think we're going on the 2.5 hour point. I don't know how much time you have.
Maybe we should call it. I got that show tonight.
Andrew has a show tonight. You want to give any shout outs? Tell people where they can find you or listen to your comedy?
Well, if you're in Shanghai, uh, add me on WeChat and come see a comedy show. I don't have anything on YouTube yet, but I don't know. Maybe we'll work on that.
Man, you totally should. Yeah, so put some stuff up on social media, man. Let people know. Andrew, funny guy, smart guy, great sparring partner, and that is, yeah, I know.
Thank you. Wow.
One thing we didn't really touch on, which is, we talked about you being a comedian. You work with kids as a teacher and so on, but you're also a martial artist. You're a mixed martial artist, and this is really interesting. This because when I met Andrew for the first time, our gym was being renovated. Like the whole gym was just gutted. And we were meeting in a conference room upstairs with some puzzle mats on the floor. It looked like it looked terrible. And Andrew comes in and he sticks around. I'm like, man, this guy is dedicated, sticking around through the renovation and everything. So I got to ask you, what was that like coming into the gym for the first time under those circumstances?
Well, to be honest, it was a bit worrisome. Like I said, I looked you up before I showed up at the gym, and I was trying to find a place to train in Shanghai. And I mean, I had talked to you a little bit before I came,
Yeah.
and you were like, yeah, come by, but you warned me like, oh, it's a little bit up in the air right now. So I showed up, and yeah, it was like a business, like a room you rent to have a meeting in a hotel.
Yeah.
And not a nice one.
Yeah.
An old one. And yeah, just some like random mats. But I mean, the important things were there. The instruction was there, and there was good people to train with, and you're a great person to train with. And that was just a temporary thing. So of course I was like, I was there for the work and not so much for the environment. And we've moved up in the world since then.
Yeah. So, Andrew, you're a really long, lanky guy, and I get a lot of questions from long, lanky guys who have trouble fighting shorter fighters. And most people think it would be the other way around because you think, oh, you got a reach advantage.
Yeah.
And you do if you know how to use it. But a lot of tall guys don't know how to use that reach advantage. I struggled with it for a very long time before I really understood how to use it. Now, I've noticed you've quickly adapted to capitalizing on your reach advantage. So what was that like for you? Was it difficult, or did it just click right away?
Well, it's something that I've kind of tried to do since I started, because I started very late and I was already tall at that point, and I knew that was one of the tools that I had, was my arms and legs were a lot longer than other people's. So yeah, I started doing that. I love GSP, George St. Pierre, and he is one of the best jabbers.
Yeah.
So from watching him, I've always been very keen to jab. I've worked a lot on my jab, tried to use that a lot, and that's been a very long standing thing. So I use the jab a lot. That helps to control space or create distance. And actually now I'm trying to do the opposite. I'm trying to not, I feel like I'm a little one-sided. Like I'm best when I'm on the outside, and now I'm trying to force myself to get in closer to people, not throw those long range punches, and try to put myself under pressure right up against somebody.
That is interesting. It sounds like we've had the opposite experience. I was so bad at using my reach when I started, I would always end up in a clinch.
Oh, yeah.
And so I thought, okay, screw the reach. I'm just going to work on clinch fighting. And so out of necessity, I developed a talent at clinch fighting. And it wasn't until years later that I really invested the time and the effort into developing my long-range game.
Well, yeah, the jab has been the most important thing, because when people come in to strike or to clinch, I've been able to catch people, and I can see they're like, that sucked. Moving in sucked. And like, oh, thank goodness, I'm back out here, and he doesn't want to get in closer.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to tall, lanky guys who are having trouble fighting those short, tank-shaped guys in their same weight class? What do you think?
I would, number one is work the jab. I love the jab. It's a huge tool to use. You can, like I said, you can create space, you can back off people, and then you can also keep distance. So if someone's moving in on you, you can jab and try to stop them from coming in. And then the other thing is, I try to usually, I don't really like to clinch that much. So I'm all about getting out of the clinch. So if guys grab me, then I've tried a lot to just get out of there and throw strikes on the way out. So that's what I would do. Work on that. When someone grabs onto you, how to quickly get out and throw a punch as you leave.
Awesome. You heard it from Andrew.
Oh, this is something I can't do.
What's that?
But if you're flexible and you're against a shorter guy, throw a head kick.
There you go, man. There you go. Oh man, throwing head kicks at short range, it's something not a lot of people expect, but yeah, man, if you watch like
that's something I learned from you actually, being like toe to toe with somebody and throwing a head kick.
Yeah, like the illusion kick, man, that's one of my favorite kicks.
Is that the hand down?
That's where you bring the upper body down. Yeah, you can plant your hands on the floor.
Okay, yeah.
It's a kick used in capoeira and a few other styles like what's his name, that UFC fighter? Blonde dude.
TJ Dillashaw?
TJ Dillashaw uses this a lot.
Yeah.
From right and inside the pocket, he'll throw head kicks with the illusion kick.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And it's such a great technique, and there's a ton of power behind it. And nobody expects to be kicked in the head from inside the pocket. It's nuts.
And with that angle too, I don't know if it's more true when you're up close like that, but he catches like shin all over people.
Yeah, shin right on the neck.
Yeah. It's brutal. Like you see a lot of head kicks and it's foot and toes hitting the head or hitting like stronger areas. With that angle, he gets shin. Yeah.
Yeah, man. There are some karate experts out there who can throw like a normal round kick. I say normal in quotes because it's kind of an unreal thing to see the hips bend in that direction. But like toe to toe sort of range, they'll throw head kicks from there. Like you'll see that a lot in Kyokushin karate tournaments and so on. But yeah, this is a different thing. It's a different style of kick. It doesn't take as much weird flexibility as you might think.
I can do it, and I'm not very flexible for head kicks.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about capoeira kicks is you can kick people in the head with very limited flexibility because you are changing the body mechanics. It's not about hip extension. It's about body movement, connecting your head to your legs, basically, if that makes sense.
Yeah, if you're moving your whole body, whereas those other kicks, it's just your leg and it's all on your hip. That's the one I can't do that. Yeah. I'm not like you. I can't do the splits. Doing the splits every day. I got to do that more. I know.
You got the potential for it. I mean, if you're an able-bodied person, you can train your flexibility throughout your life. At any point in your life, you can become more flexible. And there's no like secret to it. I mean, there are some techniques that'll make it easier and whatnot, but it's just stretch every day, keep doing it, be patient with it, never stop, and you will get more flexible. That's it. It's another question I get constantly from the fans is, how do I get more flexible? And don't say stretch.
I know. I wish there was a different answer to that question.
Yeah. You got to move your body through the range of motion that you want to use, and that's
but
it.
there is a bit of flexibility with that answer. Sorry.
You must be a comedian, man.
Part-time. Because you can find stretches that work better for you and things that are more comfortable. Because when we do like active stretching at the gym, where we go through and throw axe kicks and we're moving, it's so much better than like me on the ground struggling to do the splits.
And dynamic stretches are the best for martial arts. For kicking, you go through the motions of the kick, and I think most people hear stretch and they think, I get down on the ground and hold an uncomfortable position for a long time. Now, that's static stretching. That has a place, but if that's all you're doing, you are cheating yourself of the flexibility that you could have if you focus on dynamic stretching.
And nobody wants to do that. I don't want to do that. Yeah. I don't want to sit there trying to do the splits.
It's boring and it's tedious and it's painful.
Yeah.
I mean, there's this guy, Sensei Ando. He's got a YouTube channel, and he made this video which a lot of people were arguing in the comments about, saying basically you don't need to stretch to be flexible, something like that. And he said a lot of stuff that made a lot of sense. He said, I haven't stretched for years and years, and I can still throw head kicks easily. And he said his secret is to always be conditioning. Basically, always be moving your body through the range of motion that you want to use. So instead of like spending your life sedentary and then think, okay, now I'm going to get up and do an intensive stretching routine to make sure I don't lose my flexibility. He's basically just saying, throughout your day, go through the movements that you want to use. Go through the ranges of motion that you want to use when you fight. For example, if you're standing in the checkout line at the grocery store, move your hips around. People might stare at you, but you'll be better off for it. And he's right. He's absolutely right. Now I do static stretching. I do think it is important. There's a lot of benefit from it, but it's not the end all be all of flexibility.
Yeah, I get what he's saying. If you want to head kick someone and you're always throwing head kicks, then it's not going to be like, oh, I'm not flexible enough. No, you're always doing that motion. So it's not a case of like these other people like me, I'm not, I can't throw head kicks like I'm assuming this guy can. I need to get to that point. Okay, well then I need to do some static stretching. I need to get more flexible, and then I need to, practice. Keep practicing until my head kick's getting that high.
Yeah. Awesome, man. So, stretch, and not just static stretching. And there are so many kinds. I mean, I could go into detail. I have in other videos and whatnot, but yeah, stretch every day. That's all there is to it. And it's good for you. Man, I read 2 different studies, and this is fascinating, about static stretching, that say that static stretching can promote the growth of new stem cells in the joints. So, again, I don't know much about the science behind that, but it sounds really good to me. And it makes a lot of sense. If you see like an old yogi who's like 100 years old who can still do the splits and whatnot, why don't they break when they do the splits? Well, maybe their joints are in good shape because of the stretching.
Yeah, everybody loves stem cells.
Yeah,
why
stem cells are so hot right now, man.
Why not get some of those in your joints? Yeah.
Man, is stem cell treatment available in China? Do you know?
I don't know. My insurance doesn't cover that. I know that.
I have no idea. Neither does mine. And I don't think it's available at the local Chinese hospital.
I doubt it.
Man, local Chinese hospitals, it's like this fusion of modern medicine and traditional Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because you can go there, you can get an x-ray, you can get a prescription for penicillin, and then they can also write you a prescription for some weird like Chinese herbs and potions.
Yeah, you always get both.
Yeah.
And the drugs, like, that's another thing, they're so, like we were saying before, they're so cheap. The drugs are like the cheapest part, and I don't mind that, but yeah, it's always like, okay, well, here's the antibiotic, and here's some ground up root that you should put in hot water. Like, oh, thank you, I'll probably just need one.
Alright, I think that's our cue to bring this podcast to an end. Andrew, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ramsey.
And for those of you watching, thanks for watching. Now, get out there and train.